guys, what are we going to do? I know. Why don't I transition to become a woman? That seems like that I might be able to monetize. It certainly seems like things are going in that direction.
Sam Seder is making fun of MAGA moron Tim Pool once again. Tim Pool has long been a target of Sam Seder in the Majority Report, and it's always funny and fun to see them make fun of Tim Pool. So we're going to take a look at these clips from Tim Pool's show as well as Sam Seder's show, The Majority Report. I will share my thoughts on this as well.
Tim Pool has been having some issues with his favorite or former favorite band. This happened like a couple weeks ago, but somehow we missed it. Laura Jane Grace sang at Bernie Sanders' rally, and I guess she was the lead singer of what band is it?
Against Me.
Against Me.
Yeah. All right. I mean, if you guys know more about this story than I do, because it's not, I had never heard of this band at all. But she sang at a Bernie Sanders rally, and it really upset some on the right because of like
who she is.
But also the song. Wasn't the song sort of like a little bit
The song's
raunchy?
called God's Dick.
Oh, God's Dad.
God's Dick.
Yes.
And like, does your God have a dick? Because it seems like he's fucking me is the lyric that Tim Pool says he can't say on YouTube, which, you can. But.
You can say it. Apparently we just did. I mean, it would follow. I mean, God, we're always told that God is a man by all these fundamentalists who seem to have a direct line. And we're also told by them that, like, if you're a man, if you're a man, you got to have a penis. So, right?
It's theological.
If then this. But here is Tim Pool really. I guess this is sort of heartbreaking for him, and we'll find out why.
It's kind of his old identity versus his new audience.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And man, the acoustic EP songs, Reinventing Axl Rose, talk about great music. For those that were, angsty teenager anarcho-leftists, you had the classic song, Baby, I'm an Anarchist, for which I can still play on the guitar. And then, of course, you had much better songs, in my opinion, like Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, which is just about an old woman whose husband died from alcoholism, presumably alcohol poisoning, and never came home. And I'm going to show you the lyrics and explain the true backstory. Probably not, but at least from my perspective. So I can say this.
Right, probably not.
So you get
okay. I'm a little confused. This is him just trying to. This is Tim Pool, I guess, trying to like make the case that he was a real, hardcore fan.
Another thing you have to remember about Tim Pool is he's trying to get these segments to a certain time limit so that he can get enough ads to play during them. So,
is that what's going on?
That's
yeah. There is like a sweet spot YouTubers know about where like they get the maximum amount of ad space on. Like YouTube even recommends like make sure your ads.
Wait, are we aware of this here?
I think we've been disregarding that sort of stuff.
So this is like the YouTube clip equivalent of like increasing the font on all of your school papers by just a little bit, or like increasing the spacing by like, it's not two double spacing, it's like 2.25, right?
Right.
So this is that, but for content creation.
And I do know the trick of like slightly making the margin a little bit bigger than normal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Poisoning and never came home. And I'm going to show you the lyrics and explain the true backstory. Probably not, but at least from my perspective. So I can say this. So you get a controversy where a transgender singer is sexually graphic in front of a crowd of people, which I presume largely is adults, but it's a Bernie rally, so there's probably some kids there. Totally inappropriate. And this is exactly the point many of us have in terms of, I guess, calling out the woke left and the problems. Now, of course, I pulled up Pink News.
Wait a second. Will you guys explain this to me? How is having a sexually explicit lyrics at a rally? How is this? What is it? How does this have to do with the woke left? It's because it's a trans person who's saying them as opposed to cis?
Kid Rock.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not even sure if this actually happened because he kind of prefaced this whole thing with this might just be a fantasy of mine. So what part of this is true and what part of this is just like his headcanon? I think, I'm still waiting to understand. So.
Well,
I asked myself that about this entire era.
Laura Jane Grace definitely did sing this song at the Bernie rally.
Right. But, his idea of this is a Bernie rally, so there might be young people there. I mean, Tim Pool is on YouTube, and ostensibly there are tons of young people on YouTube, yet he still had a famous singer by the name of Kanye West on his show, where this young YouTube audience could apparently have fallen on his channel when he was talking to Kanye West, and Kanye West was espousing incredibly anti-Semitic rhetoric. So I guess by that same vein, Tim Pool is just as guilty of meddling with the children's minds.
Kanye will be looking at someone to save the Jews.
That's what the moonload said.
I don't know, Matt. I don't want to be an armchair psychologist. I think Tim Pool's just projecting his own concerns and criteria for what makes good music onto children. He's hiding behind like children to make a case that like she shouldn't sing things like this. She should go back to singing songs about, I don't know, men who have wives dying of alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, it's so funny they turn into like Tipper Gore in the 90s.
Exactly.
That is a great comparison by Matt Leck here. It's so funny that these guys like Tim Pool, they're the left wants to cancel everybody and they're into cancel culture and they're all about censorship. And then it's, hey, let's censor these people. They shouldn't be saying these things in front of certain crowds and all that. And another thing that's so funny about this is you have Tim Pool now, his favorite band or a band that he likes has now let him down. You had, I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, from earlier in the 2000s, the Republican who loved Rage Against the Machine. The machine that Rage Against the Machine was raging against was conservatism and authoritarianism, what later became MAGA, and he was shocked about that. Glenn Beck, 10 or so years ago, was upset because the band Muse that he loved were lefties.
Whenever they're...
Let's see how they frame these things, and then I'll show you how the right is breaking it down. And then let me talk to you about growing up urban Chicago, anti-flag, punk rock, GHB, the virus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's read this. Trans punk star Laura Jane Grace sings at Bernie Sanders rally in...
I mean, I'm aware of the...
It's fun. It's always funny when punk guys or guys who claim to be punk grow up to be conservatives, like Tim Miller here.
Bands he mentioned. I also think it's funny that he says we'll take a look at how the right is reacting to this, as if we just haven't seen how someone on the right has been reacting.
Not the right reacting to this. Exactly.
He just wants you to know he's a real fan. He's like, no, I'm not a casual. I know all the hits.
I am the
cool.
voice of God, and I am looking upon both sides as to how they react, and thus trust me.
Also, not to be that guy, but I wouldn't consider the bands that he mentioned, like the Virus, to be anywhere in the same subgenre of punk as Against Me. But we don't all know as much as me about punk rock. So go ahead, Tim.
So let's read this. Trans punk star Laura Jane Grace sings at Bernie Sanders rally, infuriating right-wingers. I don't know. How about the other headline from the Daily Mail? Trans punk rocker slammed for ungodly lyrics during onstage performance at Bernie Sanders rally. Quote, pure evil. I don't know if they're going to show the lyrics in here. I can't tell them to you on YouTube. I'm not kidding. YouTube would probably at the bare minimum demonetize the video. But they may actually take it down I'm sorry. I don't think the lyrics are going to take it down. It'll get it age restricted.
Oh, and you want this to go to kids?
Oh, no. I wouldn't make money off of this. Oh.
Star Laura Jane Grace made a surprise appearance at a Bernie Sanders rally, recently infuriating the usual anti-trans right-wing brigade, who were quick to take to social media to denounce her performance. Oh, I'm so excited. So let me just not bury the lead. I believe Laura Jane Grace largely weaponized being trans for money. And this coming from somebody who was deeply influenced and was a fan of Tom and Against Me before the transition. I viewed at the time...
Tom is Laura Jane Grace's dead name.
When the lead singer said that they were going to be transitioning, I said, it doesn't, they got some songs, you know what I mean? And I said, okay, like, it's whatever, shout out. And Laura Jane Grace actually has some mutual friends. I know people who know Laura Jane Grace. Never met the person, never talked to him or anything like that. And I was just like, hey, man, do you? I ain't got no beef. You know, I know other people who are trans. I ain't got no beef. You know, I'm going to mind my own business. Largely, I'm not okay with how they do it to kids and all that stuff. However,
How they do it to kids?
for those that are actually real fans and have been to the shows, I would say that the honest take here, oh boy, I'm going to break it down for you.
Oh man.
Tom, lead singer of Against Me, was in the gutter. The band was not doing really well. They had massive amounts of debt. They failed. They had this bump of punk rock success. Very small, but in the core of.
So is his argument that like the band's doing bad? Well, guys, what are we gonna do? I know. Why don't I transition to become a woman? That seems like that I might be able to monetize. It certainly seems like things are going in that direction. Oh, incidentally, I might get arrested and put into a gulag, but at least the band be doing good.
Have you seen this guy? You know, the one that keeps telling us to
stop running on the treadmill.
Well, you might want to listen to this.
If you want to
Look at a broken brain. I'm going to transition to make money.
Also, it's punk. So as Russ was saying before the show, like making money is not really like how you judge these kinds of bands.
Especially Against Me, who I used to watch at like garage shows when I was in college, and they were like crashing on people's couches and scrounging for food, and very happy about doing that because they enjoyed playing their music.
Yeah, I saw them at a tiny venue called ABC No Rio down in Lower Manhattan, which fits like 100 people at max, if even that, back in like the year 2000, literally. So, you know, the idea that these guys were, they did have a moment where they did get attention, and they were on a major label for a hot minute, and they were touring with Green Day for a bit.
Guitar Hero.
But these weren't guys that were expecting to get there. Like, this was an out of the ordinary thing, and clearly, I think Laura Jane Grace just thought felt like she couldn't, we don't know what was going on in her personal life, but it just seemed like it was time for her to come out. She felt like she was in the place personally where she could do that.
Yeah. What do you think that there is? First off, is she doing that much better now?
I mean, she has a solo career now. Like, Against Me still exists, but she does her own thing as well.
She's making the big bucks now.
No. You know, she's in the
what?
It's
kind of like a. That's how's that possible? I thought that when you transition, you just get all this money that comes in.
To go trans, make bands. That's what they say.
I mean, is there the idea that somebody has like transitioned to make money? There just has to be an easier way to make cash.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that Tim Pool can't conceive of not being a sellout. Like, this is just his way of grappling with, like, you know, someone who he claims to be a fan of having politics that he no longer personally or professionally espouses or believes in. And so he has to frame it in a very right-wing way, which is, it must be for money. It can't be because this has always been the case and I just never really got it, or I've changed in a way that I wouldn't recognize if I were looking at myself in the past. It has to be that they're a sellout. You know, you can take what you want about Tim Pool, I suppose, in that being a projection, but I don't know how else you can interpret it besides also just being transphobic.
I should add that the idea that like this was something that she just decided back in 2012 when the band wasn't doing so good, and that this wasn't something that was clearly like bubbling underneath for a while. I could point to the 2007 song that Against Me released, "The Ocean," where Laura, who then did not transition yet, was known as Tom. Laura literally sings the line, "If I could have chosen, I would have been born a woman."
And this is what's so stupid with the right-wingers like Tim Pool. It's like trans athletes in sports and high school trans athletes. You know, this idea that a boy is going to pretend to be a girl so that he can get into the girls' locker room like real life is an 80s sex comedy like Porky's or something like that. I mean, it's just such an idiotic mentality. And as far as Tim Pool with punk. I was never really a big punk fan, but I had friends who were into punk. And like Brandon is pointing out here very astutely, Tim Pool thinking, well, everybody wants to sell out like him. And one of the things that I knew about punk and people who really were into punk is that they hated the idea of selling out and were very opposed to the idea of selling out. The bands and the fans. And if Tim Pool were ever really any kind of a punk fan, I bet that back in the day when he was going to these shows that the other punk kids hated him. I would have to guess. But I don't know. Like I say, I just think it's always hilarious, and we've seen this multiple times, when these right-wingers, these MAGA types like Tim Pool, are disappointed to find out that their favorite bands do not share their values and their viewpoints, and in fact even hate MAGA right-wingers like Tim Pool. Imagine that, it doesn't, I don't know that there's been any statement from this band about Tim Pool, but just imagine your favorite band or one of your favorite bands or a band that you love coming out to say that they hate you. That's what happened with Rage Against the Machine. I mean, that would have to be, I just can't imagine loving a band and then they come out and say, yeah, we hate you and everything that you stand for. But let me know what you think about all this, about what Sam Seder and the rest of the guys on the Majority Report had to say about Tim Miller, this band, and selling out. And I can't imagine Tim Pool ever being a punk guy. He had to be, if he was as annoying back then as he is now. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments. I'll stop rambling now. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.